city. And some are just having 6 feet, some 3 feet, some right there. Well, good morning to you. I'd like to wish you and your family all the very best indeed, your neighborhood, your community, of course the country of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Eastern Caribbean, the wider Caribbean, and wherever you are right about now, listen to us on WINNFm 98.9. Our thoughts are with you. Wishing you all the very best. Do be careful and do the right thing. And think about those people who are depending on you doing the right thing, because what you do has consequences. COVID-19. We're going to give some thanks and praise right now, and then we're going to have a link up with Darren Matthew Ward in Antigua and Barbuda, Observer Media Group.
Sure is hot out here. No, I don't mind though. I'm glad to be free. You know what I'm saying?
As we give thanks to this morning, each and every day we give thanks, in good times and bad. That's how we are.
In the corners of my mind, I just can't seem to find a reason to believe that I can break free. 'Cause you see, I have been down for so long, feel like all hope is gone. But as I lift my hands, I understand that I should praise you through my circumstance. Take the shackles off my feet so I can dance. I just wanna praise you. I just wanna praise you. You broke the chains, now I can lift my hand. And I'm gonna praise you. I'm gonna praise you. Everything that could go wrong, all went wrong at one time. So much pressure fell on me, I thought I was gonna lose my mind. But I know you wanna see if I will hold on through these trials. But I need you to lift this load, 'cause I can't take it no more. Take the shackles off my feet so I can dance. I just wanna praise you. I just wanna praise you. You broke the chains, now I can lift my hand. And I'm gonna praise you. I'm gonna praise you. Been through the fire and the rain, bound in every kind of way. But God has broken every chain, so let me go right now. Take the shackles off my feet so I can dance. I just wanna praise you. I just wanna praise you. I wanna praise you. You broke the chains, now I can lift my hand. And I'm gonna praise you. I'm gonna praise you.
Aware. How is it transmitted? Through close contact with an infected person or by an infected person coughing or sneezing, by touching contaminated objects or surfaces, and then touching your mouth, nose, or eyes. This message is brought to you by Newsco Limited in collaboration with the Ministry of Health. This is Observer Radio.
Your voice counts. Your questions are answered. This is Observer AM. 8 minutes after 8 o'clock in Antigua and Barbuda. This is Observer AM, and this is the time that I look forward to quite a lot. Not, of course, the least of which today is Friday, the end of the week. I get a couple of days break to take a dose of hush. But I have an opportunity to start that taking a dose of hush because I have Clive and Ken on the line, and they will be joining me in questioning our very special guest, Mr. Lionel Michael, a former chief. Oh, there's a... All right, everybody is here. Good morning,
yes,
gentlemen.
Yes, good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you all doing?
Well, so far it's just me. Ken is on his way. He should be here shortly. But we are doing fine under the circumstances. How are things in Antigua and Barbuda?
Well, things are, locked down. That's the word. We're supposed to be at home. We're not supposed to leave home unless we have to perform an essential service. And also, if we have to, that's the operative word. At least this is how it ought to be, right, in theory. if we have to go to the supermarket or we have to go to the pharmacy or seek medical attention, we'll be on the. We are allowed to be on the roads up until 12 o'clock. I think it's from 6 to 12, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's basically what it is. And some people are suspicious that there are people who are abusing the privilege. I have no way of knowing that. People have their reasons to be out on the road. I'm not going to sit in judgment of anyone, but certainly people are expressing concerns that the situation is being abused and the Prime Minister might be forced to be more draconian in implementing measures to enforce the curfew. So that's what's happening in Antigua and Barbuda right now, and we are concerned about, the way the government is handling it. I think by and large, though, I think people the sense I'm getting, let me put it that way, people get the sense that the government is dealing with the hand that they've been dealt with this situation. It's an invisible enemy, as Mr. Trump has referred to it as, and there's no textbook, there's no manual, so they're basically making things up as. So it looks as though sometimes they're making things up as they go along. The leader of the United Progressive Party joined us a few moments ago and suggested that they need to be more structured in their approach. There needs to be a more coherent plan so that the populace can know what the plan is, so that, there's more buy-in. I'm summarizing what he had to say. So that's, in essence, what's happening here. What about in St. Kitts?
Well, I have Ken Richards here with me, and he's glad to speak to you. Ken, good morning. And Ken is laughing because you mentioned Donald Trump. I mean, he's just
no,
laughing.
Clive, you just passed the baton. That's why I'm laughing.
He did. That's exactly what he did. That is exactly what he did. Clive asked you.
But here in St. Kitts and Nevis, Darren, similar stuff going on. We had a 24-hour curfew from Tuesday night. It ends this morning. But yesterday afternoon, the Prime Minister, in another address, indicated that that type of curfew will in fact continue from today to next week, Thursday. Gladly, people are being given an opportunity today and tomorrow to do some shopping, because I'm sure lots of people may have run out of food over the past 3-4 days and need to restock. So as Clive mentioned earlier, there are loads of people around the supermarkets this morning, and we expect that to continue for quite a while. It was a sight to actually see Basti over the past 2-3 days, totally devoid of human life and hardly any vehicles moving, because people generally obeyed the order to stay home in the interest of protecting themselves and others. But there were a few people who were arrested. I think about 5 people were arrested, and I think they're going to be taken before the court at some stage, that kind of thing.
Oh, dear. They're getting fined?
Well, I suppose so, yes. I suppose so.
Okay.
But
the fine here is $5,000, I understand.
Yeah, it's kind of high. It's kind of high to basically dissuade people from breaking the law.
Right.
Clive, why are you jumping and dancing? What's your problem, man?
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm hearing, my good colleague here saying the place is devoid of human beings, but he's there. I'm getting concerned now,
I'm talking about the streets, Clive. I'm talking about the streets being empty. What is your problem this
you're
morning?
In a playful mood.
Very playful.
I don't know, man. I'm worried about this man.
The thing is, Darren, I mean, it's a really serious situation, so you have to try to get a bit of relief as well. I kind of understand that, But we have some more days coming up, right up until, from Sunday, the 24-hour curfew takes effect, and 24-hour hours over 2-3 days, basically. So people will be subjected to more of what they had this week, and you have to make the best of it at home.
Well, you have, so far, I've just got an update, individuals who decide the rules are not for them. And you've had intense patrols and presence of security officials who were very, in my experience and from what I've heard from other people, very courteous and very professional in the way in which they conducted their affairs. So today now, only one member of a family is supposed to leave the home. We still have the state of emergency. Only one member of a household is supposed to leave to go and do the shopping to come back. So there's still limitations. But I think, as Ken pointed out earlier on, after a few days, some people are out to get fresh supplies, fresh groceries, and not in every instance you're going to have just one member of the household, even though we hope for that. And I think they're trying to have, like, between the first 2 hours for people who are differently abled and older people. But that, from what I've seen going around Bastille, is a mixed bag because you have people who may have to go out for people who are older, people who may have to go out for people who are disabled. So it's a mixed bag, but lots and lots of people in many, many lines are around Bastille today.
In terms of Clive, in terms, sorry,
Just to remind you, gentlemen, before you continue, Ken, just to remind you that we do have Lionel Michael on the line, our former Chief Health Inspector, and he's joining us on the line, and he's currently serving as the Chief Environment Health Officer in the British Virgin Islands. Mr. Michael, just to let you know, we haven't forgotten you. I'm just going to let Ken complete his point, and then we'll come to you. Is that okay? Okay, Mr. Michael? Oh, dear. I think we're going to have to try and get Mr. Michael again.
Let's see if you can
We don't have him, so carry it away, Ken.
Yeah, I was basically going to say, in terms of the police, I mean, we are essential workers, Clive and I, and we had to come to the station to do the news. I was stopped several times, whether coming or going, and they were really polite and professional. I have to commend them for that.
Okay, that's commendable. And what I will say to what both of you gentlemen have observed in terms of people running out of supplies, if you have small children, or, children generally, that is certainly going to be a part of your experience, because I'm telling you, children at home, well, as we say in local dialect, they nyam plenty. They just nyam down. They eat. Oh, my gosh.
And one quick observation, Darren, is... Yeah. During the curfew, you could have money at home. Your food runs out, the money is useless. Yes. You cannot go out to buy anything. So that I think some people experience that as well. It's a difficult situation.
It's quite exciting because on the one hand you have the money, but you can't eat the money. All right, so and you can't get to the shop, so you have to practice some discipline. Now you may have some supplies that you bought for 2 or 3 days, but because you're home, the supplies go very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah, extremely quickly. And to be honest with you, when you're home, you're home. Even if you say you're working from home, so you're sending email or you're engaging clients, which I did a little bit of yesterday, you still find yourself wanting to munch on something because you're home. You're in that frame of mind. You're in your comfortable space or comfort zone. So you're going to go and snack on peanuts or chips or ice cream or yogurt. Or before you know it, man, you're putting on the pounds.
Yep.
But before, I think we were achieving some success in reaching Mr. Lionel Michael. The technician is trying to sort it out. Mr. Michael, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here now, yes.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for joining us. I've already provided the introduction in terms of you and your experience here in Antigua, your position here in Antigua and Barbuda, former, and your current position. So they are aware of your bona fides, at least to a certain extent.
Yes.
And I'm sure you're well known up and down the Caribbean. And Mr. Michael, how are things with you in the BVI? On a personal note, before we get into the meat of the matter.
I'm fine,
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine, I'm totally fine. We are on lockdown. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, people love to go out and do basic shopping.
Okay.
But we are lockdown start tomorrow night for 14 days.
Okay. Right. Maybe what I could do to open the batting, I'll invite Clive or Ken to ask the first question of Mr. Michael as it relates to the efficacy of lockdowns, how lockdowns should look, whether it should be partial or complete, that sort of thing. I don't know, Ken.
Yeah, we would want to know what the situation is like in the BVI a bit more, Mr. Michael.
Well, we only have 2 cases. We have 2 cases in the BVI. According to the amount of tests has been done, people are in quarantine. There have been curfews. We had the first curfew, it lasted 7 days. And then we had another one that finished Thursday, and one was imposed the same Thursday, but allowing for people to go shopping and go to the pharmacy and get basic supplies. That curfew was from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And people allowed to go to the supermarket based on their last name, initial of their last name. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, shopping days on a controlled, regulated basis. The real lockdown comes Saturday night for 14 days. 24-hour lockdown, 24-hour curfew for 14 days.
Wow.
So the BVI.
what extent? To what extent are people?
Shop for 14. People ask to shop for 14 days.
To what extent are people obeying the regulations, or are they grumbling?
Well, you hear the odd grumble here and there, but I think the population was prepared for these inevitabilities and these kind of measures. A lot of public education has taken place. A lot of awareness programs have taken place, and people were expecting these things to happen. These guys start to impose these kind of measures even when they have one case and early in the game. So people were expecting them. For the most part, people are complying. They have a few people out there that try to go out and so on and different times, and the police apprehend them quite swiftly and quickly. Especially people on motorbikes and these speed vehicles on the road. Yes, so the police are very vigilant, very efficient in dealing with them. But I want to just mention the social distancing in effect, especially with regard to let me say social mixing decrease and social distancing increase.
Okay.
Because we be careful on those two terms, because gatherings, funerals, weddings, churches, and so on, they put their restriction on those. And the major supermarkets have very aggressive social distancing measures in place. It is marked on the floor of in aisles of the supermarket, inside and outside. All the supermarkets have hand washing facilities, running water and soap outside of the supermarket, plus hand sanitizing equipment for people to clean their hands. There are people disinfecting the baskets and the trolleys and so on as you enter the supermarkets and so on. And so these things are taking place here. As I said, the massive education and all media, social media, radio station, Facebook, and so on, and taking place.
Can I ask very quickly for a friend? Yeah, I was going to ask very quickly for a friend who's sitting in Studio One. Has alcohol been banned?
No, alcohol has been banned, really. No particular item has been banned. Not yet. But with regard to social, I just want to make a point with social distancing, and that social distance has climbed the ladder significantly in terms of a public health prevention measure. I just want people to know that while we are practicing and encouraging social distancing, we cannot ignore the other control measures. They must be combined with social distancing. And I'm hearing a lot of social distancing messages, call for social distancing, which is good, but I'm not hearing the same loud and clarion and common call for hand washing facilities and equipment to increase hand hygiene, and so hand hygiene takes place at the supermarkets. Some supermarkets are here in Antigua, some business places, and so on. So, as a vantage point on the country, and so the hand hygiene is still the most important method, and cough etiquette. Those are still the most important method in preventing COVID-19 and controlling COVID-19. Yes, social distancing is very important, but we want to also combine them with these other methods. Also, if people are wearing the mask, I'm not advocating mask here at all, don't get me wrong, but if people that choose to wear the mask, that's their choice. They should combine wearing the mask with all these other things I mentioned, hand hygiene and so on, and control and stay away from sick people. And if they're going to wear the mask, they have to select the right type of mask for the right type of exposure. And they do hand hygiene when they're putting on the mask and when they take off the mask. And so these are some of the guidance I want to just put out there for prevention and control. So the whole question of suppression of the virus, let me make a point here. I think what we need to heavily focus on is not just flatten the curve, the bell curve, as we call it, or the distribution curve, on the epidemic curve in epidemiology. Because flattening the curve have some challenges in that people still get sick, and you're still hoping that people develop herd immunity and so on, which may not necessarily benefit the population. But so we want to focus on suppression measures, partial suppression. Some people go into partial, then complete suppression, and coupled with hygiene, cough etiquette, social distancing, and so on. What we should be doing is trying to reduce the reproduction number of the virus. Because the virus have a very high reproduction number, what they call the RNOx number, RO number. And for COVID-19, most studies are showing that it's between 2 and 3, 2 to 3. And so one person can infect 3 persons, and they in turn can infect another 3. So you have 9 and go on to 27 and so on.
It's exponential.
And so we got it very, yes, it's exponential. And so when you apply that to the growth of microorganisms and the curve, they're exponential. So you want to reduce that number to at least 1, less than 1, as much as you can by aggressive suppression measures. The partial shutdowns followed by complete shutdown. I mean, you have to educate people, create awareness, improve communication, and so on. Improve your hand hygiene, because you need hand hygiene in the home also. Not just when you go out in the public, you need hand hygiene and cough etiquette, even when not everybody will be home now. Mm-hmm. So you need to be washing your hands. You need to be engaged in your cough etiquette practices and so on. One thing I'm hearing the push in the background is cleaning and disinfecting of surfaces, and particularly touch surfaces. So even though we're practicing social distancing and we touch a door handle, a door knob, we go into the supermarket, we pick up lettuce, we pick up things in plastics and so on. How do we clean those? How do we sanitize? How do we disinfect them? How do we disinfect counters and fridge doors and the different surfaces in supermarkets and so on? I see in the BVIA, the owners of supermarkets, they have a mic and they're appealing to customers how to, they not only have the hand sanitizers at the entrance and the hand washing machines at the entrance, they have them inside the supermarket themselves on the columns. I haven't heard they have those in Antigua. But they need to get really aggressive with this thing.
Yeah, they do.
And
they
encourage.
Do. Some do.
Yeah,
some
they have it on columns, some in the supermarket, inside the supermarket themselves, and outside. Mm-hmm. When you go, you should wash your hands before you go in the supermarket, so sanitize the hand before you go in the supermarket. While you're in the supermarket, if you don't have your own hand sanitizer, you should try to walk with your own hand sanitizer and wipes and sanitize and clean your hands. And the supermarket should also have hand sanitizers in the supermarket themselves for people, and have markings 6 feet apart.
By the way, Ken or Clive, I'll have a follow-up for Mr. Michael, or may I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Darren.
All right. Testing, the issue of testing. This morning on, I believe it may have been CNN or BBC, one of the two, there was a suggestion that that hospital ship that floated into New York, it's about 10% capacity. I think it has 1,000 beds or something like that, and it's barely full, or occupied rather, because of the fact that there is a lack of testing, because this is supposed to be a facility for individuals who have non-COVID situations. How important is testing? There are some who think, we really don't need to test that many. It's only those who are showing symptoms. We don't want to waste resources. And there are others who think, how are you going to know the scale of the problem or the scale of the infection unless you test more people? Where do you fall on that debate or in that debate?
Well, I fall in testing more people. I think that testing is important. The importance of testing cannot be gainsaid in this whole COVID fight. But generally speaking, countries have established and guided by WHO. In the region, we are guided by CAFA, have established guidelines for testing people. And generally, if you're showing signs and symptoms of a disease, they will test. They have guidelines for testing probable case, suspected case, and so on, and have confirmation procedures and so forth. And so I support testing. I think that consideration has to be given to random testing of people who show influenza-like symptoms. I want to make that definition, that distinction. If you show influenza-like symptoms, symptoms of the common cold or the influenza cold that is common, because we're still in the flu season, you may want to establish criteria to look at those people and do a test on some of those persons. You can never know what you may find. And so you cannot just throw out random testing out the window just like that. You need to look at it and look at and have the necessary resources to conduct testing. I think more testing really should be done. I'm really surprised that hearing that in Antigua and so on, we have very limited amount of test kits and things like that, bearing in mind that it's going on since January and so forth. But yes, you can have testing done on a more regular basis and cover more people based on established criteria, not only for the probable and suspected cases and so on, but people who may show influenza-like symptoms. Because some of the school of thought for testing is that if somebody presents with influenza-like symptoms, you need to do a test to rule it out, to see if it's influenza A or influenza B. And so we need to do those type of tests. You may go further to do COVID-19 tests. And so I would not throw out the call that I heard in Parliament the other day, or other people calling for random testing. I think that's something that needs to be given consideration to.
Okay, understood.
They also have a test for antibodies in the blood, but that is to see if you had the disease before, not to determine present cases. That's retroactive before. That's after you may have been exposed or infected with COVID-19. They do antibody tests, and they can tell you had it before. But that test is not telling us at this moment that you had whether they have the COVID-19 right now or not.
Okay. Follow up, Clive or Ken?
You know, the more we think about this thing, it's the more you start to ask yourself questions of breaking it down into smaller pieces. Now, you may have social distancing, but what happens at the level of the family? What happens at the level of the home is I think, a consideration, because most families will have a very close interaction, and you may have a lot of hugging and so a lot of time together. Now you have some more time to play. But one member of the family may leave to do something and come back in with something else. So all the talk about hygiene and all that, I think, is even more important when you break it down to the level of not the society, but to the family.
Very important. Yes. Especially now during the curfew and people are home, or our family members are home, and spending more time in the home, hygiene issues become even more important and paramount in this situation. And that's why I said to you that I heard the question of water supply this morning, and I think that consideration can be given to that. Increase water supply in homes, increase hand sanitizers in homes. We don't have water, and washing of hands, cleaning of surfaces in the home, the frequently touched surfaces and so on, and try your best to control those things in the home. We want to emphasize the importance of hand hygiene, cough etiquette, cleaning and disinfecting, about cleaning and disinfecting. Regular soap bleach is excellent. Of course, you have to mix that with water. Various guidelines. Tablespoonful of water to tablespoonful of bleach to a gallon of water, and you can put in a spray bottle and spread on surfaces and so on. Vinegar is not so effective, but it can be used. Pine Sol, Dettol, or the form of not Fabulosa for sure. So you can use some of these cleaning things in your homes to control and clean the place properly. Wearing of masks is an issue that is still out there, but the general guidelines still remain that you wear masks when you're sick or when you're giving care to someone, or if you're giving care to someone.
Mr. Michael, if I may interject very quickly, because we're running out of time. The messages, though, are mixed on that. We've heard the mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio, saying one thing, the governor saying another thing. Mr. Trump saying you can wear a bandana or handkerchief around your thing, around your thing.
No,
Dr. Fauci.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm just saying.
One quick and mask. One quick and mask is that when you're dealing with PPE, personal protective equipment, and masks, you have to look at the exposure you're trying to control. Are you trying to control aerosols? We now hear that COVID-19 can spread by aerosols, forced cough, sneezing, the cloud of viruses and so on, and moisture and so on can remain in the atmosphere for some time. And so what are you protecting against? Is it aerosols? If it's aerosols, bandana and handkerchief and surgical mask, not going to work. Because the aerosols, you have to wear an N95 mask if you're controlling aerosols. If you're controlling droplets, that when you talk, like I'm talking now on the phone, and if I don't stay free from you, I can spit on you, I can droplets can come out of my mouth. N95 mask will not prevent you, not help you.
Oh,
because that is droplets. I want to understand the difference here.
I don't.
And
so clarify,
surgical mask. Surgical mask may help you, and mask made of certain fabric. When people are making masks home, they have to look at the fabric, type of fabric they're using, and that's another story, another program for this. But the other exposure is wearing a mask to prevent spills and splash, and so on. And so different types of masks that you would wear will come for different types of protection.
No. Gentlemen, that's a lot of food for thought. I don't know, can you have a final question, or Clive, before we wrap?
Well, I wouldn't call it food for thought at all, but, these droplets are quite distressing. But I tell you what, how do we keep up the energy and the focus when we're now getting into this thing? We expect trouble in the coming weeks. What advice would you offer us in terms of helping our family, our members, our society members to essentially stay strong and to stay focused, knowing that it's just the first wave?
Mr. Michael, you heard that? Oh dear.
Not totally. Yeah, something.
Something. Well, could you repeat the question for Mr. Michael, Clive?
Yeah. Basically, what words of encouragement can you offer us, knowing that this is just the first wave and we can expect numbers to grow, perhaps even difficulties with health services? We hope not, but from what we're seeing around the world, it's likely.
Well, yes, the models are showing the increase is going to happen, and the studies are showing that. And so, again, people have to double the effort, triple the efforts in the whole hand hygiene, the personal hygiene, the cough etiquette issues, the social distance, all combined. Not just doing one measure by itself, it's combine all measures. And people are saying when there's a curfew, when there's a lockdown, people should abide by the rules and the regulations and stay in their home. And, of course, they have to not stay locked up in your house all day, but you can come outside in your yard and get fresh air, and you can get sunlight, open your windows, and allow fresh air to pass through, and so forth. I want to mention one last point with quarantine stations.
Sure.
When we are selecting quarantine stations, it is important that they meet the criteria established. I don't know. I heard about Huxley Hotel. One of the things that concerns me, and I probably need to get some more information, is the ventilation system within the hotel. What type of ventilation system it has, so that if for some reason people in quarantine may develop signs and symptoms, that would not affect the entire or the patients or the people who are in quarantine. And so the ventilation system that are in there, there are other criteria, of course, but I just want to flag that as an important net point in dealing with COVID-19 and dealing with viruses of this type.
Gentlemen, we got to leave it there because we have one of our corporate partners who need to come on next. So we'll continue the conversation another time. Mr. Michael will be in touch. Clive and Ken, thanks so much as
Yes,
always.
man.
This
Thank
one
you.
was a
Thank you
lot
very
of
much, Darren.
Thank you very much to Mr. Michael and Darren.
You're very welcome.
I must compliment you for quoting Mr. Trump twice today. I mean, you're coming along. Thank you very much.
Oh, God.
Clive,
Have mercy.
you have a good weekend.
Yes, all right.
Yeah, go ahead, Ken. What you were going to say?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
You know what? I'm happy to have provided you with some humor. You have a good weekend.
Have a great
And you,
weekend,
Darren.
Darren.
All
All
right.
right, take care.
care, yeah.
All right, that's all I can for today. Well, you know what, Ken? We're gonna be laughing and so because we have to cope, right? It's not a funny thing, but
Indeed.
if we can't
Yeah.
get some laugh going and some humor going, and to use the local parlance, if we can,
You have to release.
how are we going to deal with this?
You have to release this
This is the
stress
early.
levels,
This is the
right?
early part of it.
Yep.
You know, of course, we're hoping for the best, but we're seeing what's happening around the world. Just to let you know, though, that I just learned. I was online, and an Indian couple has twins, and they're named COVID and Corona.
Oh, God.
So the girl is named Corona, and the boy is named COVID. Now, ask about why those names now. The mother was a 27-year-old.
Long after this thing is gone,
No.
they will have that reminder.
You got to hear this one now. She said her name is Pretty Verma, 27-year-old mother. She said the virus is dangerous and life-threatening, but its outbreak made people focus on sanitation, hygiene, and inculcate other good habits. Thus, we thought about these names. Then she says, however, we might change the names later. So that's where we are.
Interesting.
All right, go take care, Ken.
Yes, Clive.
All right. So that's all I come for today. A little bit of humor. I do hope we did not bother you too much with our laughter. But we're all trying to cope in our own way. It's now 19 minutes before the hour, 19 minutes now before 9 o'clock on this Friday.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Never wanna put my heart on the line.
Dreamy Group invites you to become a Dreamily Vowed customer with goods and services provided by our Dreamy team. We specialize in event planning and design, event rental, floral design, and balloon art. We cater to all your event needs. So, whether it's a wedding, birthday party, grand opening, dinner, anniversary, stage design, or any event worth celebrating, call us 466-9418 or 766-9189. For all your decoration needs, visit us at the Koi Building, Airport Road for your garment baskets, fruit and flower baskets, bath and body baskets, floral arrangement, wreaths, centerpieces, and floral gifts to fit any occasion. Call 466-9418 or 766-9189.
Sweat, and I don't know where to go. I got cold sweat. Yeah, cold sweat. Are running down my face. I said it's cold sweat. All over the place. Oh, Jaja, I see that coming, and I don't know where to turn. Oh, Jaja, I see that coming, and I don't know where to turn. Never want John public, come low and I business. Sail it in the streets, a rain a fall and a breeze a blow, and I got to face the night heat. Cold sweat, cold sweat, cold sweat, cold sweat. Everywhere I go, oh Jaja, I see that coming. Ja, I don't know where to turn. Oh Jaja, I see that coming. Ja, what a lesson I've learned. My skin is black upon me and my bones they burn with heat. My guitar just keeps on crying. Cold sweat, ooh yeah, cold sweat, cold sweat. It makes my guitar cry. Cold sweat, cold sweat. Dry your weeping eyes, 'cause Jaja will be there when you got nowhere to turn. Yes, Jaja will be there. Ooh, if you got no place to turn. Oh, Jaja, I see that coming. What a lesson I've learned. Oh, Jaja, I see that coming, yes. And I don't know where to turn. I got to find some place to lay my head. I got to wake up and eat a piece of bread. I got to work so that I can survive. I know I've got to stay alive. Yeah, na na na. Yeah, na na na. Stada da da da. Reggae music again. Stada da da da. Oh na na na. Yeah. It's been a long, long time now since we groove together like this. A different vibe is in the air. Reggae music again. Happiness on every face. Peace and love for every race. Smile and greet with real friends over and over again. Boy, it's been a long, 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 long time. We don't have no vibe like this. Reggae music again. Whoa, reggae music again. Boy, and it's been so long. We don't listen to some old time reggae song. Play the music again. Yes, make we unite again. I remember when, way back then, positivity was the message we sent. No man not pretend, we root to the stem. It used to be Jamaica, no problem. Money I spend, borrow or lend. And them kind of love that we need to extend. Remember when the skirt them are up on the pants them. It's been a long, 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 long time. We don't have no vibes like this. Play the music again. Yeah, reggae music. music again. It's been so long. We no listen to some old time reggae song. Play the music again. As a reggae make we unite again. Who know I hear? If you were in my shoes, you would see some me not choose music and me music choose. Impossible for me refuse. Can't make no excuse. And if I the good vibe you want, bring the real thing come. Reggae music live on, can't done, so make it play for the rest of my days. Boy, it's been a long time. We don't have no vibe like this. Reggae music again. Reggae music again. Boy, it's been so long. We don't listen to some old time reggae song. Play the music again. Yeah, I make we unite again. I remember when, way back then, positivity was the message we sent. No man now pretend, from the root to the stem. It used to be Jamaica, no problem. Money I spend, borrow Ireland, and them kind of love that we need to extend. Remember when the skirt them are up on the pants them. It's been a long time. We don't have no vibe like this. Play the music again. Reggae music again. So long. We don't listen to some old time reggae song. Play the music again. Make we unite again. So long. We don't have no vibes like this. Music again. Music again. Unite again. So long. So long. Reggae music again. One drop again. Yeah. Combining us a long time. Real vibe. One drop vibe. Combining us a long time. Combine. Combining us a long time. Real vibe.
Yes, indeed, that's busy signal there. Reggae music again. Just some music to keep you cool today. This beautiful Friday. Well, you know, it's now time to talk about money. Yeah. I'm getting ahead of myself now. Need to slow down. It's Money Matters right now on WINNFm 90.9. On Money Matters, we talk about money because you know, and I know, that money matters. Let's say good morning right now to CJ Warner. Good morning, CJ.
Good morning, sir.
Well, let me wish you a very blessed day today. Hope you're keeping safe. And, of course, we look forward to getting your analysis as to COVID-19's impact on the economies and, of course, our psychology, the way we do things. It's really asking us to look inside and come up with innovative ways of dealing with what threatens to be a test for all of us.
Well, yes, Mr. Bacchus, but the first thing I'd like to do today is to give my utter, absolute, and complete expression of appreciation to those doctors, those nurses, those hospital workers in every form, cleaners, cooks, maintenance people, who are all over the world putting themselves at risk in order to make people well. We've heard that in Spain, over 60 doctors have died. Something like, I think, 8% of the deaths in Italy have been medical workers. We see people on the news in the United States with all of its wealth crying out for the need for appropriate health protection. And even though I'm not aware that anyone here has been hospitalized as yet, the time will arrive, when someone will be hospitalized, and the people in our own facilities, even those who are just missing the tests, to those who have been tested here, are at a certain risk. I speak with some sense of direct concern, because I have immediate members of my family who are also medical workers in North America and who have expressed tremendous concern, even use the word scared, about the conditions they're having to work under and the pressures, psychological and otherwise, they're having to work under on a daily basis. And so my utter, absolute, unreserved expression of gratitude to these people all over the world who are putting themselves at risk. To bring it home to a certain sense of when it hits you, I want to read a piece from the New York Times of a couple of days ago. It's just a short piece, and it reflects a story, an observation of someone. And it goes, at 11 o'clock on Wednesday, I was standing in the line at the local Chase Bank branch. A teller asked the elderly man in front why he was making such a huge cash withdrawal, an amount that looked to him like tens of thousands of dollars. The man was wearing a mask and gloves, and he looked frail and sick. He had a difficult time walking up to the window. His wife, also wearing a mask and gloves, was at the next window, also withdrawing huge amounts of cash. She overheard the question. "What did you say to him?" she called out to the bank teller. "I didn't say anything bad," the teller replied. But the wife would not let it go. She asked him again. "I just asked him what he was going to do with all that money he's taking out," the teller said. The woman got angry. "That is none of your business. But if you must know, he has the virus. We have 13 grandchildren, and we are dividing our money among them." Eventually, the couple collected their stacks of what looked like $100 bills, stuffed them in their pockets, and slowly left the bank. Hello?
Yes, that's the kind of story that you don't have an easy rebuttal for. It's just so stark.
Absolutely.
I think it is so stark that it leaves you speechless. And even as we speak, we can only imagine those of us who are not going through what some people are going through right now. What's happening with people in New York? You have just over 5,000 cases now. 5,000 deaths in the USA alone, 5,600 deaths, according to the last count I checked. And people just don't know what to do. I mean, you're hearing about Russia sending relief supplies to America. You and I would not have had that conversation in recent years. We couldn't see that one coming. And, of course, you've had the President of the U.S. Also talking about drug trafficking at this time and sending naval vessels close to Venezuela. Says that gangsters are basically trying to sneak one in through the borders now that this COVID-19 is occupying everybody's attention, that there has been a rise in drug trafficking. Some of the media houses faded from his coverage of the press conference when he started to go down that road with drug trafficking. They wanted to hear about coronavirus and supplies, equipment, and so, because you spoke about frontline workers. I don't think we could. There's not enough praise that we could offer, especially those who are taking care of the elderly, and those who are on the front line, those who are responding. There are also other layers of workers that sometimes we take for granted. Security personnel who have to be on the front line, media workers who risk their lives every day to tell stories, even those workers who are in the grocery stores.
Absolutely.
Those workers are on the front line. So
they have to stock the shelves. Mm-hmm. They have to man the checkouts.
They're in that building there where lots of people would have passed through. They've got to clean it. They've got to get it ready. They've got to deal with customers, and all the time being courteous. So sometimes we take a lot of things for granted. What I've seen as well, there are another group of people who are up and about at 3:30 in the morning, cleaning the streets of Bastille. Some of them don't have masks, but they're out there sweeping the streets, cleaning the drains, Independence Square, picking up garbage. And I look and I say to myself, there are many unsung heroes among us.
In each of their own ways, the people in the supermarkets putting goods on the shelves, checking out the stuff, bagging out groceries, those you just referred to. Each of them, in their own way, is out there making it possible for us to stay at home. And that's why we need to bloody well stay at home if we don't have to be out there. We just don't get it. I don't know. Did you read or listen to a piece from an Antiguan living in the United Kingdom? His first-hand account of the experience with the virus?
Yes, I did.
I've been listening all along, hoping to hear a first-hand account. And this gentleman was not just articulate, but he was graphic. But in being graphic, it brought home what it was about. And of course, he still maintained his English sense of humor when he said what an effective weight loss measure it was. And I must tell you that without prompting, without any reference to it, my sister, who is also an ICU nurse, made that same mention to me in a conversation recently. She said, "You'll be amazed how easily you lose weight. But," said she, "I would not recommend it as a weight loss remedy." These people are just being, the word is not heroic, and yet I don't know what the word is, because heroes make it sound as if they expect some kind of thank you. And we know they'll not be getting individual thank yous. And that is why what I see happening in certain countries of Europe, where people are going out on their balconies and giving applause to, communal applause to the people who put their lives at risk, is such a wonderful sight to see. One wishes we could see things like that here in St. Kitts Nevis and throughout the other Caribbean, instead of some of the political squabbling and sniping that is going on at this very, very vulnerable time for all of us.
Well, what we seem to be having is we have some people who are focused on dealing with the recovery and, of course, the resilience issues of the country, and there are others who are busy campaigning, trying to lay the blame here, lay the blame there, score political points. And basically, one of the things that results from that, of course, is that people get angry, very divisive, and sometimes you may have a sort of a reluctant cooperation, if any cooperation at all, if you press the wrong buttons with people who support various political parties. So I don't know. I am not. It's above my pay grade, but it really would be helpful if we could all, agree on a way forward and a way to deal with the virus, and of course just leave the campaigning, which is usually about blaming people and insulting people. Leave the campaigning for when things have recovered, But I don't think people are going to listen to that because they're busy doing what they like to do, which is campaign and blame the other person for all the wrongs in the world, while taking all the credit for everything that's good in the world. I'm talking about the entire Caribbean. I'm not picking on St. Kitts and Nevis. That's going on in some places that have elections. In Guyana, you still can't get the results from the elections on the 1st of March, and people are heading to court. Still no lockdown as yet. And the latest prediction from PAHO suggests there may be as many as 20,000 confirmed cases by the time they get started. So I'm looking at it across the board. Now, one of the things that we have to continue to talk about and encourage conversations about is how do we spend time together? Now you have a lockdown and you're asked to stay at home. What do you do while you're at home? How do you maintain the social distancing, the physical distancing, the hygiene? How do you keep up with the needs of your people in the house, who need what, you know? How do you keep those supplies coming? And then, of course, if you're home a lot, then you're going to consume more. More often than not, you're going to consume more. So that's another type of conversation we need to be having. And I think I had one recently with Dr. Holness, where he was suggesting that, you know, the whole issue of you taking personal responsibility for cleaning up after you have used any facility or any part of your home, just to ensure that the more vulnerable group is protected, you know, was made. And to add to that, of course, is that if anyone breaks the curfew, if anyone, you know, as we say in the Caribbean, makes a dash to come back, then and not follow the established protocols as described, sanitization, wash your hands, whatever, then the entire family could be at risk. And people generally in the family, they actually cling together. They spend a lot of time together. They're doing many things together. So that's another conversation we need to be having as well.
And that is why I welcomed when I heard the Prime Minister in his address yesterday appeal that for those for whom it is necessary to go out to the stores today or to do other business, limit it to one member of the family so that there are fewer persons having to be in contact with the outside world. Because it's such a difficult one. I must admit that I have not eaten anything more than I normally would, well, except some gummy bears. But I guess I have the discipline of saying, well, look, I would not normally have been snacking, so why am I going to snack? You know, sort of put a psychological lock on the refrigerator door and don't go anywhere near it. So I'm pretty sure that I have not eaten any more, maybe I've even eaten less than I would normally have on a normal day, being locked in. But with those with people around them, it's a difficult thing because we want to maintain family activities. But I visualize something even as innocent as playing a game of dominoes, where you put those dominoes on the table and you shuffle them around. And if someone had gone outside, gone somewhere and come back and not thoroughly cleaned their hands, etc., it means that whatever they would have brought in would now be on those dominoes. And just the family bonding process of playing a game of dominoes could expose someone to something completely innocently. And the thing about it is that the people who are carrying this thing initially don't look sick, don't sound sick, because these signs only manifest themselves about 10, on average, 10 to 14 days after. And that is the risk. It's about, I just think, just being extreme in a certain sense. And you spoke about the political sniping, etc., that's going on throughout the region. I think this phrase came out of World War I because of the people who lived in trenches for months on end. And it is, there are no atheists in foxholes. If you could turn that on its head and say, we are all in foxholes now, and we'll better get the same religion.
Well, people will be people. Essentially, we live in a democracy. People are free to, to engage in the things that they like to do. But we're told that for our own health and our well-being, there must be social distancing. And I think one of the issues we're having, I know people are making an effort, and my hat's off to those who are making a great effort. One of the things that have happened to us in the region in recent years, and I'm speaking as an older man now, is that a lot of people are not really cooking anymore.
Does that sound caring for your fellow person? What about this thing in the Bible that allegedly says, do unto others as you will have them do unto you? Would you want someone to deprive you of food because you can't afford it? And let's turn it around. would you therefore deprive someone else of food because they can't afford it? And I think of that same, I know I'm going to be probably told that he does not literally use those phrases in the Bible, do unto others as you have them do unto you. But that same thing could be applied to our social distancing rules. Would you want someone to place you at risk by not engaging in safe practices? So therefore, you should not place another person at risk by not engaging in safe practices. The notion that price gouging achieves the principles of economics in its purest form cannot be justified even by the most rabid capitalists amongst us. And I pride myself as a blue-blooded capitalist. I could not make such a defense. Let's turn it into a hurricane. There's a shortage of plywood to barricade our windows and our doors, or there's a shortage of galvanized for roofs. Would it be okay if a sheet of galvanized went from $100 to $800 because that is what the market will provide? And so people now won't be able to protect their homes because plywood and galvanized are beyond the reach of people having to make serious decisions. So you can only now, rather than the 10 sheets you would need for your home, you can only afford a sheet and a half. And they don't cut the sheets in half at the lumber yard. So effectively, you can only afford one sheet of plywood. I'm at a loss, Mr. Bacchus. Help me out here.
I'll tell you what. WINNFm, we like to leave room for debate, and we believe that diversity, at least I do, is a very important part of us basically growing together and not leaving anyone behind. So when Gregory raised the issue of price gouging being good, it tickled my fancy, and I said to myself, well, I haven't heard anybody say that publicly for a while. So I went to look it up. And there are arguments for price gouging, as reprehensible as they may be. It speaks again to why you have people who are basically using moral arguments. One of the moral arguments used to support price gouging is that the person who makes extra profit can donate the extra profit to charity. So you have people who will rationalize positions that would seem abhorrent to you. And when you hear them, you get a chance to make up your own mind as to what really are you saying. If I'm impoverished and I really don't have much, and you're taking up prices on vital, critical, supplies for me, I don't want to hear your story about what you'll do with the money later. You're being unfair to me. And of course, we get to the whole issue: how do we deal with demand and supply? From the perspective of, should we have rationing of particular items because these are going to be in demand and one person must not buy out everything? Or should we have what we've been promoting for quite some time, high prices on sugary items, salty items, so that we can reduce the cost of public health care? So there are arguments there that when one person brings up something that may seem quite odd, it helps all of us to start to wrap our minds around these issues and say, well, you know what? I didn't think about it like that, but I understand where that's coming from, but it's not inclusive. It's coming from perhaps a class position or a position of plenty without thinking of those people who are actually in need of support.
But we come back to economic theory. One of the basic theories that is arguing economics in the subject of supply and demand is the guns versus butter scenario. That if with a fixed amount of money or resources, you can make guns or you can make butter, but you cannot make large numbers of both. So the more guns you make, the less butter, or the more butter, the fewer guns. And so when you have to spend more money on something, there's less money available to spend on other things. The thing about the giving away to charity, let's look at a scenario recently. And I'm not criticizing this gentleman because I admire him for his entrepreneurship and nowadays his philanthropy. But Bill Gates announced that he was donating $100 million towards this COVID-19 battle. I think the gentleman for the Dallas Mavericks, Castro, also announced something similar. And Bezos of Amazon, Washington Post, and all these other things fame, announced he was also making a large donation. But Mr. Bacchus, $100 million out of Bill Gates' wealth is a much smaller sacrifice than many people who go to church on Sunday and put $5 into collection plate. Because Bill Gates is worth over $50 billion. That's $50,000 million. So $100 million is a tiny contribution compared with the person who may be living in a house worth $100,000 but has debts to the bank of $80,000 and yet finds the wherewithal to put $20 in the collection plate. Their contribution is 100 times greater than Bill Gates' $100 million contribution in its relative size. And so the notion that extra wealth gets distributed via charity, I was having this conversation with myself. You have these lots of conversations with myself all the time. I am someone who, everywhere I go, one of the first things I look for whenever I move into a community is where is the neighborhood library? When I first moved to the United States, I was so delighted to find my local library was a fine library. It was donated by a gentleman named Carnegie, who, upon his death and in his dying years, donated what then was a lot of money, many millions of dollars, towards the founding of libraries all over the United States. And all over the United States, there are hundreds of these Carnegie libraries. But the question must be asked, if during his lifetime, when Carnegie was running his steel mills and paying pittance wages to his workers and accumulating tens of millions of dollars of wealth, is that a justifiable bargain that later on thousands of people benefited from the libraries that he established at the expense of the workers who during their lifetimes were not adequately or well rewarded for their labor in his steel foundries and steel mills? These are philosophical arguments that need to be, that one needs to engage in. It's not just a pure matter of economics. The world is more than economics, and it may sound odd coming from someone like me, but the world is more than just economic principle and economic theory and economic practice. The world is also about, am I my brother's keeper?
Well, Mr. Warner, we have to go, but I tell you just before we go, this conversation has to be continued, because when you talk about guns and butter, you remind me of people like the gentleman who, Alfred Nobel, the Nobel Peace Prize now, he was an arms manufacturer. You have people like Cecil Rhodes, who we now have the Rhodes Scholar, who, of course, was a racist, a supremacist. And you have, of course, places where guns make millions of dollars and provide many, many jobs, more than butter does. But that's another conversation for another time. We have to go. It's time for Ram's Blast from the Past. But food for thought, an intro to our next encounter on Money Matters. Thank you so much, CJ.
Have a pleasant day, sir.
All right. All right, so we're going to have to run. We in extra time. Good morning, Rams. Oh, my. It is time now to bring you Blast in the Past. Compliments Rams Trading. Rams Trading, the good food people. And a whole lot more. We'll continue our conversation with Mr. Warner about guns versus butter. Next week's edition, God willing, of Money Matters. But now it's time to hear from Rams.
Start your day the right way with 7 C's.
Start your day the right way. Trust in the timeless tradition of 7 Seas cod liver oil. 7 Seas cod liver oil is a rich, natural source of omega-3, giving you the essential nutrients needed to promote good health and help make sure you're looking and feeling your very best. Whether it's one a day, high strength, or traditional, with 7 Seas cod liver oil, you start your day the right way.
Start your day the right way with 7 C's.
Like us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/ramsupermarket. Follow us on Twitter, www.twitter.com/ramsupermarket. And subscribe to us on YouTube, www.youtube.com/ramsupermarket.
Need the thirst quencher in my cup. If you have one, hold it up and say, Bust the brother colors in my life. Refreshing and nice, and I drink that what we like. But stand full of vibes, living for the color. I know black and white, we do what we like. We live to enjoy life. Buster, pour it up, different flavor. Load it up, load it up. If you have one, hold it up and say, Bust the brother colors in my life.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is WINNFm.
Blast in the Past today will feature King Short Shirt. This one's I Want to Be There. Next one coming up, Nobody Can Rest.
Carnival, oh, here I come. I overheard someone say, when I am on the prowl, looking for fun, I want to be there for Juve, whether in Trinidad, Barbados or Grenada. I can feel it calling me. St. Kitts, St. Thomas or Antigua, it is where I want to be. Miami, New York, or Canada, or anywhere the world over. Once carnival is anywhere. Oh yes, I want to be there. I want to go and dance, want to rock and prance, want to hear steel band playing all day long, want to feel the beat, dancing in the street. Want to wave me hand when I jump, jump, jump in the band.
Yes, indeed, the music of Sir McLean Emmanuel, King Short Shirt of Antigua and Barbuda.
In the street, dancing to the beat, makes carnival exciting. Whether rain or shine, it's enjoyment every time. When you are in the street dancing, whether in Trinidad, Barbados or Grenada, I can feel it calling me. St. Kitts, St. Thomas or Antigua, it is where I want to be. St. Martin, St. Lucia, Dominica, or anywhere the world over. Once carnival is want to wave me hand. When I jump, jump, jump in me van. Old friends to meet, new ones to greet. Carnival is like a reunion. People from everywhere plan all year to be here. Carnival is the place for fun, whether in Trinidad, Barbados or Grenada. I can feel it calling me. St. Kitts, St. Thomas or Antigua, it is where I want to be. Montserrat, St. Christ at Atola, or anywhere the world over. Once carnival is anywhere. Oh yes, I want to be there. I want to go and dance, want to rock and prance, want to hear steel band playing all day long, want to feel the beat, dancing in the street. Want to wave me hand when I jump, jump, jump in me van.
Blast of the Past coming away, compliments Rams Trading, featuring Sir McLean Emmanuel of Antigua and Barbuda, born in St. John's. February born. He was born on the 28th of February in St. John's, Antigua and Barbuda. What a great calypsonian. Big tunes everywhere.
Start your day the right way with 7 Seas.
Start your day the right way. Trust in the timeless tradition of 7 Seas cod liver oil. 7 Seas cod liver oil is a rich, natural source of omega-3, giving you the essential nutrients needed to promote good health and help make sure you're looking and feeling your very best. Whether it's one a day, high strength, or traditional, with 7 Seas cod liver oil, you start your day the right way.
Start your day the right way with 7 Seas.
Like us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/ramsupermarket. Follow us on Twitter, www.twitter.com/ramsupermarket. And subscribe to us on YouTube, www.youtube.com/ramsupermarket.
We go back to Sir McLean Emmanuel. This one was big across the Caribbean. All the way down in GT, all the way up in Jamaica, all over the Eastern Caribbean. This one's called Illusion.
That they were free and slavery has lost its sting, but they're not foolish, they can see you're lying deep within. Slavery has not left our doors, not yet, I'm sure. We have got to fight the battle some more. The time has come for every man in the Caribbean to forge one common destiny designed to make our people free. We have got to stand up for the right to lead the lives we choose, to change and answer to refuse. If you think the battle is done, my brother, you are writing an illusion, an illusion. You talk of progress, love and justice, peace and unity, all illusion. We have no hold, and these are our native islands. Our hands are tied, we don't control our actions. Come now we forward together in a social endeavor, our goal. Social control, we slave no more, we slave no more. Only then we'll slave no more. We'll beg no more, we'll stoop no more. Only then we'll be no more. We cannot live forevermore, subjected from shore to shore, reflecting cowardice and shame against our ancestral name.
Are there no warriors left among us to rise and shine? No heroes left to rise up unto the shrine. No martyrs in our history for the youths too. Scholars died to make us free. Coffee died to make us free. Garvey died to make us free. Must all these warriors die in vain while we go back to slavery once again? If you think the battle is done, my brethren, you are riding an illusion, an illusion. You talk of progress, love and justice, peace and unity. All illusion, all illusion. We have no hold on these our native islands. Our hands are tied, we don't control our actions. Come let we forward together in a social endeavor. Our goal, social control. We'll slave no more, we'll slave no more. Only then we'll slave no more. We'll beg no more, we'll stoop no more. Only then we'll kneel no more. Has only just begun. We've got to carry on, uniting these West Indian lands. May take us generations, but independent in this region don't mean one damn. If we can be independent as one, the economical policies are disheartening. The people's voices are ringing. We are tired of living a life of total subjection. Told what to spend and what to keep. God knows sometimes we ain't even have enough to eat. If you think the battle is done, my brother, if you are riding an illusion, an illusion. We talk of progress, love and justice, peace and unity. All illusions. We have no hold on these our native islands. Our hands are tied, we don't control our actions. Come let we forward together in a social endeavor. Our goal, social control. We'll slave no more, we'll slave no more. Only then we'll slave no more. We'll beg no more, we'll stoop no more. Only then we'll be no more.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Buster, pour it up, meet the thirst quencher in my cup. If you have one, hold it up and say, what's the brother colors in my life? Refreshing and nice, and I drink that what we like. But stand you full of vibes, living full color. I know black and white, we do what we like. We live to enjoy life. Buster, pour it up, different flavor. Load it up, load it up. If you have one, hold it up and say, what's the brother colors in my life?
When will we learn to live together? When will we learn to love each other? When will we learn to trust our brother? When will we live one for another? Like I want to scream and scream and scream and scream. Sometimes, Lord, I feel I like I want to scream and scream and scream and scream. Sometimes, Lord, I feel I could scream. When will our dreams become utopia? When will our sorrow cease to be? When will the poor no longer hunger? When will mankind be truly free? Lord, I search and I search, but I can't find the land of milk and honey and rivers full of wine. Sometimes I feel like I want to scream and scream and scream and scream. Sometimes, Lord, I feel I could scream. Give a bang. From them elbow. Seems like we're going backwards, things really going from bad to worse. And it is we the people who really get in the part that hurts. That is the scene we are manipulating continuously in this country. Looking around at living condition cause me to wonder if we were merely designed and put here to suffer political pressure and economical failure. Great numbers are restless, many bitterly. Some have no work, brother, and some are hungry. Some of us are hanging on by the very skin and we teeth. Is we to be blamed for it? We need a change of heart, yes, a change of mind. We need to change the system while we have the time. But we can't go back to the old time, Magory. And we can't condone the present treachery. Oh no, our economy is failing. This country going to ruin. We hate one another, won't cling together while too much sticky fingers in high places. Can't be no. I am not an economist, I know. But I find that we can't continue like this. Brother, if we don't end this whole charade, we can't last the next decade. Looking beyond tomorrow into a future that's very grim. I can see signs of sorrow if we continue squandering our resources. Though not many, if honest and the land develop, they could prove true. Tired watch all them insurance companies taking we money and investing every cent of it in some foreign country, while this island suffers industrial stagnation. We need adequate housing, we need industries. You wasting money searching for investors for this country. Go make them banks and insurance companies start invest with money right back here in this country. We need a change of heart, yes, a change of mind. We need to change the system while we have the time. But we can't go back to the old time, Magory. And we can't condone the present treachery. Oh no, how we
prophecies. And all our vain objectives, we still have to face the realities. Seems like we fail, all our youth them are making a steady exodus from society. Many find work hard and unrewarding, and who can blame them? With government, union and employers now all combined. And it ain't the first time, brothers they go rap we blind. Allowing foreign business to still exploit this country, sidestepping our local chance to help the economy. Dealing in dirt, forgetting the masses, the hands in iniquity. We getting poorer day out and a spree. We need a change of heart, yes a change of mind. We need to change the system while we have the time. But we can't go back to the old time Macquarie. And we can't condone the present treachery. Oh no, our economy is failing, this country going to ruin. We hate one another, one thing together while too much sticky fingers in high places can't be no. I am not an economist, I know, but I find that we can't continue like this. Brother, if we don't end this whole charade, we can't last the next decade. Is it too late, I wonder? Now have we really gone too far? Will we awake, I wonder, to see just what we are heading for?
The King short shirt for you.
The stage is set, unemployment, inflation, starvation, frustration. Yes, my friend. If we must survive the combination, we must be vigilant in the fate of all charity workers and not spectators, active leaders, not political elites. The conman is still alive here in this country. Some find they can make a fortune just by fooling we. If we continue along these lines, we may end up like Bangladesh, all because of selfishness. We need a change of heart, yes, a change of mind. We need to change the system while we have time. But we can't go back to the old time Macquarie. And we can't condone the present treachery. Oh no, our economy is failing, this country going to ruin. We hate one another, one thing together while too much sticky fingers in high places can't be no. I am not an economist, I know, but I find that we can't continue like this. Brother, if we don't end this whole charade, we can't last the next decade.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is WINNFm.
Just about time now to say so long from Blast from the Past and so long from Good Morning Caribbean. Have yourself a wonderful day. King Short Shirt will take us out. Awake the youth.
While our youths are drifting slowly, while we're heading for depression. Don't you see our problem? If somebody don't help them, they will drift on endlessly, and so will this country. They are the fruits of the nation and its salvation. Our future lies in their hand. They are tomorrow's leaders, so we must make sure that our children stand. Wake the youth, my sleeping country. Wake them, let them rise and shine. Teach them thy truth, that they might see that to save a dying world is their destiny to be. Raise up, stand up for your country. Forward on, forward on. Forward on, forward on. Awake the youths, my sleeping country. Wake them, wake them, wake them, let them rise and shine. Wake them before they grow too old to hear. They are drifting, they are wasting. Utilize them or we lose them. Unemployment leaves no alternative but to walk and wander, lime deep or beg. And some policemen are ever willing to beat and shoot our young men. Frustrated and angry, degraded and hungry, brother, they like the street in a trance. Tell me how can they excel in this country if they're not given a chance? Ah, wake the youths, my sleeping country. Wake them, wake them, wake them, let them rise and shine. Teach them thy truth that they might see that to save a dying world is their destiny to be. Raise up, stand up for your country. Forward on, forward on. Forward on, forward on.
Stay tuned, we've got the news update coming up in just a few. Thank you so much, King Shortchurch.
Let them rise and shine. Wake them.